Congratulations, this is your last board exam. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you want to pass the licensure examination for teacher, you need to review, and you need to practice your reading comprehension by answering some drills. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe and comment your score. Don't forget to pray. Let's start. 1. Which is a guidance function of a test? A. Identifying pupils who need corrective teaching. B. Predicting success in future academic and vocational education. C. Assigning marks for courses taken. D. Grouping pupils for instruction within a class. Two. Mr. Reyes, an elementary school teacher in science, found out that many of his pupils got very high scores in the test. What measure of central tendency should he use to describe their average performance in the subject? A. Mean. B. Median. C. Mode. D. Range. Three. Which of the following indicates how compressed or expanded the distribution of scores is? A. Measures of position. B. Measures of central tendency. C. Measures of correlation. D. Measures of variability. Four. The proportion passing the upper and lower group is 0.80 and 0.95, respectively. What is the index of difficulty? A. 0.38. B. 0.40. C. 0.58. D. 1.02. Five. Mr. Gringo tried to correlate the scores of his pupils in the social studies test with their grades in the same subject last third quarter. What test validity is he trying to establish? A. Content validity. B. Construct validity. C. Concurrent validity. D. Criterion-related validity. Six. If a test item has a difficulty index of 0.06, how would you describe the test item? A. It is very easy. B. It is moderately difficulty. C. It is very difficult. D. It is difficult. Seven. Two sections have the same mean but the standard deviation of section 2 is higher than section 1. Which of the two sections is more homogeneous? A. Section 1. B. Section 2. C. Both A and B. D. None of the above. Eight. Miss Cortez administered a test to her class and the result is positively skewed. What kind of test do you think Miss Cortez gave to her pupils? A. Post-test. B. Pre-test. C. Mastery test. D. Criterion reference test. Nine. In his second item analysis, Mr. Gonzalez found out that more from the lower group got the test item 15 correctly. What does this mean? A. The item has become more valid. B. The item has become more reliable. C. The item has a positive discriminating power. D. The item has a negative discriminating power. 10. Q1 is 25th percentile as media is to what percentile? A. 40th percentile. B. 60th percentile. Circa 50th percentile. D. 75th percentile. (11) Which is implied by a positively skewed scores distribution? A. The mean, the median, and the mode are equal. B. Most of the scores are high. C. Most of the scores are low. D. The mode is high. In a normal distribution curve, what does a t-score of 60 mean? A. 2 standard deviations below the mean. B. 2 standard deviations below the mean. C. 1 standard deviations below the mean. D. 1 standard deviations above the mean. For items 12 to 17, what does each figure or distribution on the right indicate? 13. A. Mean greater than median greater than mode. B. Mean least than mode greater than median. C. Mean greater than mode least than median. D. Mean least than median least than mode. A. Mode least than median. B. Mode greater than median. C. Median least than mode greater than mean. D. None of the above. A. Equal means, unequal standard deviations. B. Equal means, equal standard deviations. C. Unequal means, equal standard deviations. D. Unequal means unequal standard deviations. A. Unequal means, equal standard deviations. B. Unequal means, equal standard deviations. C. Equal means, equal standard deviations. D. Equal means, unequal standard deviations. A. Unequal variability, equal means, different shapes. B. Unequal means, equal variability, different shapes. C. Equal variability, equal means, different shapes. D. Unequal variability, unequal means, different shapes. A. Unequal means, equal standard deviations. B. Equal means, unequal standard deviations. C. Equal means, equal standard deviations. D. Unequal means, unequal standard deviations. In conducting a parent-teacher conference, which of the following is not true? A. Be friendly and informal. B. Be a know-it-all perso. C. Be willing to accept suggestions. D. Be careful in giving advice. In a frequency distribution, what is the midpoint of the class interval whose lower and upper limits are 99.5 and 109.5? A. 107.0. B. 105.0. C. 104.5. D. 102.5. In a frequency distribution, what is the interval size of the class whose lower and upper limits are 9.5 and 19.5? A. 11.0. B. 10.0. C. 9.0. D. 5.0. Given a mean of 55 and a standard deviation of 8, what two scores include one standard deviation below and above the mean? A. 46 and 63. B. 47 and 64. C. 47 and 63. D. 46 and 64. (23) Given the same mean of 55 and standard deviation of 8, what score corresponds to 2 standard deviation above the mean? A. 70. B. 71. C. 72. D. 73. (24) What principle of test construction is violated when one places very difficult items at the beginning, thus creating frustration among students, particularly those of average ability and below average? A. All the items of particular type should be placed together in the test. B. The items should be phrased so that the content rather than the form of the statements will determine the answer. C. All items should be approximately 50% difficulty. D. The items of any particular type should be arranged in an ascending order of difficulty. (25) Which of the following is an ineffective use of presentation software? A. Darken the room. B. Use appropriate pacing. C. Read directly from the slides. D. Allow interaction with the learner. (26) Mrs. Reyes would like to find out how well her students know each other. What assessment instrument would best suit her objective? A. Self-report instrument. B. Sociometric technique. C. Guess who technique. D. All of the above. (27) Mr. Reyes asked his pupils to indicate on the piece of paper the names of their classmates whom they would like to be with for some group activity. What assessment technique did Mr. Reyes use? A. Self-report technique. B. Guess who technique. C. Sociometric technique. D. Anecdotal technique. (28) Which of the following assessment procedures or tools is useful in assessing social relation skills? A. Anecdotal record. B. Attitude scale. C. Peer appraisal. D. Any of the above. (29) If the proportion passing for the upper and lower group is 0.90 and 0.30 respectively, what is the discrimination index? A. 0.40. B. 0.50. C. 0.60. D. 0.70. (30) Which of the following is not an example of communicative tool? A. Multimedia encyclopedia. B. Teleconferencing. C. Electronic mail. D. Chat. (31) Which is an example of effective learning outcome? A. Interpret stimuli from various modalities to provide data needed in making adjustments to the environment. B. Judge problem and issues in terms of situations involved than in terms of fixed dogmatic thinking. C. Appreciate the quality and worth of the story read. D. None of the above. (32) When asked about her order, a little girl tells the waiter Yonka Gaya Kahapon. With Piaget's theory in mind, what is the little girl's behavior called? A. Pre-operational egocentrism. B. Conservation. C. Reversibility. D. Transutative reasoning. (33) Bruner's theory on intellectual development moves from enactive to iconic and symbolic stages. Applying Bruner's how should you teach? A. Begin with the concrete. B. Begin with the abstract. C. Be interactive in approach. D. Do direct instruction. 34. Which of the above items should be discarded in our item pool? A. Item 1. B. Item 2. C. Item 3. D. Item 4. (35) Which of the following emphasizes the right of citizens to quality education? A. The basic education level. B. Tertiary level. C. The graduate level. D. All levels. (36) Which is a characteristic of the teaching machines of B.F. Skinner? A. It does not need any feedback. B. It requires teacher's assistance. C. It is meant for a collaborative work. D. It allows a student to learn at his or her own pace. (37) Which educational levels provides for free and compulsory education as stipulated in Article 4, Section 2 of the Philippine Constitution? A. Elementary level. B. Secondary level. C. Elementary and secondary levels. D. Tertiary level. (38) Who among the following is in the category of non-academic personnel as provided for under Education Act of 1982? A. Guidance counselors. B. School principal. C. School nurse. D. School librarian. (39) How is gradual progression of teachers' salary from minimum to maximum done? A. Regular increment every year. B. Increment after 10 years of service. C. Regular increment every 3 years. D. Increment after 5 years. (40) Which of the following is not recognized by the Magna Carta for public school teachers? A. Quality education depends primarily on the quality of socio-economic status of teachers. B. Advancement in education depends on the teacher's qualifications and ability. C. Education is an essential factor in the economic growth of the nation. D. Education is development and vice versa. 41. What appointment can be given to teacher Apple who possesses the minimum qualifications but lacks the appropriate civil service eligibility? A. Contractual basis. B. Permanent. C. Provisional. D. Substitute. (42) Which of the following rights is intended for parents under Education Act of 1982? A. The right to academic freedom. B. The right to privacy of communication. C. The right to seek redress of grievance. D. The right to full access to the evidence of the case. (43) What can help achieve relevant quality education? A. Strong curriculum. B. Competent instruction. C. School community relations. D. Competent administrator. (44) Which of the following provisions under the Magna Carta for public school teachers will most likely promote teachers' welfare and defend their interests? A. Be promoted in rank and salary. B. Regulate their social involvement. C. Undergo and participate in professional development. D. Establish, Join and maintain professional and self-regulation organizations. (46) Who among the following characterizes a professional teacher? A. An education graduate who received honors. B. A teacher who has taught for at least 6 years. C. A teacher who has attended national seminars on teaching. D. A teacher who qualifies for a permanent position under RA 4670. (47) Who are covered by RA 4670. A. Teachers in all levels. B. Teachers in all public elementary schools. C. Teachers in both public and private schools. D. Teachers in public elementary and secondary schools. (48) Teacher B has been in active service for 10 years when he decided to pursue higher studies. Under RA 4670, what kind of leave of absence can S/he avail of? A. Indefinite leave. B. Scholarship leave. C. Study leave. D. Vacation leave. (49) When can teachers be required to work on assignment not related to their duties? A. When on probation. B. When found inefficient. C. When lacking in educational qualifications. D. When compensated under existing laws. (50) Teacher C has been teaching 7 straight years and therefore qualifies for a study leave with pay for 1 year. Should she pursue it, how much pay is she entitled to receive? A. 50% of monthly salary. B. 60% of monthly salary. Circa 70% of monthly salary. D. 100% monthly salary. Answer key. 1. B. 2. B. 3. D. 4. C. 5. C. 6. C. 7. A. 8. B. 9. D. 10. C. 11. C. 12. D. 13. D. 14. D. 15. A. 16. A. 17. C. 18. D. 19. B. 20. C. 21. B. 22. C. 23. B. 24. D. 25. C. 26. C. 27. C. 28. C. 29. C. 30. A. 31. B. 32. A. 33. A. 34. D. 35. D. 36. D. 37. C. 38. C. 39. C. 40. D. 41. C. 42. C. 43. B. 44. D. 45. B. 46. D. 47. D. 48. C. 49. D. 50. B. Thank you and God bless.